And for the first time, the Swans are onward to victory.
Welcome back to A Bevy of Bloods, a fan podcast of the Sydney Swans Football Club.
So to all you loyal Swans out there who just can't get enough of the red and the white,
fluff up your tail feathers and settle in for a potentially biased yarn about all things to do with our beloved Bloods.
G'day there, Cygnus and Swanlings. Welcome back to A Bevy of Bloods, the premier podcast of the Sydney Swans AFLW. You're joined as always by the crew from Sydney and a bloke who's the equivalent of Ivan Milat in Finland. I'm Chris and this is Jen.
whoa.
This is really stepping up a notch.
Right.
That's right, you lucky loyal Swans fans. Welcome back to the podcast. And remember, if you enjoy what you hear, make sure to give us a like and a follow. Today we wrap up this week's game against the top of the ladder leaders, North Melbourne. So let's kick things off with a quick game recap. Over to you, our lovely man in Finland.
Thank you. I am actually off to the forest just this afternoon. It's lunchtime in Finland right now. I've got to spend 3 days in the forest until Friday. So let's see.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Don't go
what else to
backpacking
say.
in Finland, everyone. That's all I'm saying.
It's too cold, luckily, to backpack. It's like where I'm going, actually, in eastern Finland, it's like 5 degrees or something Celsius. Anyway.
Easy to hide bodies, though. Like that's until the summer anyway.
Yeah,
Anyway.
no one's looking out there. There's a lot of forest. Right.
It's a different podcast, guys.
Yeah. This is
We've
been
true
doing
crime
maths,
podcasts
you know,
go
we could
off.
do-
Yeah.
Murder
true
mysteries
crime's
in
where
Finland.
it's at.
Yep.
Yeah, there's
crime's
lots
the
to be
thing,
dug
yeah.
into.
So we're going to convert ourselves to a true
Anyway,
crime podcast at this rate. Go.
We had a football game that was played last week, or just over the weekend, in North Hobart Oval against North Melbourne Kangaroos in front of 1,515. I like the way that's 15-15, that number, actually. And we lost to North by 60 points. The final score was 14-3-87 to 4-3-27. That was the day.
Look, a very, very, very strong and competitive North Melbourne, as we expected to. They are absolutely dominating the season. The girls went out there, threw some effort in front of some friendly crowd there. Jen, your first impressions of the game, what did you see?
My first impression was I didn't actually feel like it was as big as this score suggests. Like, the game was actually closer. I thought our Swannies fought to the very end and really gave it to them. And especially that first quarter, we were equal. We were equal up into that last 2 minutes of the first quarter. I think it was 18 all. So that was a really exciting start to the game, particularly after we said about the last couple of weeks, our starts. So watching that, I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, we're in this. I might actually get my prediction of winning here. But as you said, the murder mystery, but not so much. It was a very sad day not having Gardner out there with us, Laura, with her injury. So we're doing really well to stack up against the top of the table ladder leaders, North Melbourne. They were just too good. It really showed the importance of having played a couple of seasons together. They just always seemed to know where their teammates were without looking sometimes, and they get that ball out of congestion, and then it was just slick from one end to the other. So top of the ladder for a reason, but we fought to the end.
Without a doubt, like Jen, it didn't feel like a 10-goal loss, did it? Like, because 10 goals is a belting, especially when you only scored 27 points yourself. 10 goals is a really, really big loss, but it didn't feel like that. Like, it wasn't until the last quarter that I started to feel like, hey, this game has gotten away, or maybe like partway through the third quarter, towards the end of the third quarter. Because, in the first 10 minutes of the game, there was 6 combined goals, and with a couple of minutes left in the first quarter, it's still 3 goals each. They kicked 2 goals in about 30 seconds, including from a 50-minute penalty, which you probably would have scored from anyway. And then they got the next 9 straight after those 2 goals at the end of the first quarter, and we just couldn't run with them. But even then, like late in the third quarter, the margin was still only just under 4 goals, and and I wasn't watching it thinking we're going to get blown out here. I was thinking, we probably aren't going to pinch a win because, 4 goals against North Melbourne in a quarter is pretty hard. But we had been scoring. Like, we managed to score quickly in the first quarter. So that was there. The trouble was they were also scoring quickly. So, probably I thought we could keep going goal for goal with them and maybe lose by 3, 4, 5 goals and have a very respectable loss against the top team this year. They've not lost yet. They've only had a draw. And in the end, they really kicked away and they pumped us late. But I really didn't think it was a bad loss despite the margin.
Yep.
No, that's a really good way to look at it. I think what you've both suggested, I totally agree. I kind of looked at it as really competitive for big chunks of the game, and of course some of the girls stepped up. So we'll talk about that in the Bob medal. But Jen, out of interest, the tackle count was just through the roof from the girls. Defense was well in the cards. It was obviously a pressure game where we wanted to apply. We applied it, and it was showing off really well. We got some just of those at the back of it.
Yeah, they really brought it to them. It was such a great contest. It was really physical across the park. I mean, there were definitely some girls looking at North Melbourne who were just stronger and bigger than we were. We could see that on the park, but we brought it to them. We've got quite a small team, and the effort from the very beginning to the end, like Sivo said, like we were getting our ball into the forward 50. I think in the third quarter we were matching them actually in the amount of like forward 50 entries. We just couldn't quite get it over that last line. And then players like Lexi Hamilton and Giselle Davies in that ruck contest, they were giving it to them. They stood their grounds. I think really hats off to them. They should hold their heads high. And then the midfield, the rest of the midfield stepping up. As I said, absence of Laura Gardner, out with a broken hand. Hurley, Bullis, Kennedy, they really did their job through there. A number of players coming through who don't often go through the midfield, like Bullis, she was fantastic. Even Cooper had a run through the mids and she did a great job to hamper some of their players as well, being much smaller. But again, I think North, they're elite. I just kept watching that game going, oh, God, they're good. They just slick handballs out into space, kick to advantage. They just seem to know where each other were. But yeah, we fought, but actually one other thing I wanted to say for that kind of stuff, the umpire in the fourth quarter for us put the whistle away. They were being just as physical back to us, and the amount of frees that went unchecked in that last quarter, there were so many sling tackles in the back, being tackled without possession. I reckon we could have had an extra 10 free kicks to us in that fourth quarter, which could have given us a little bit of, closed that margin up for our percentage. I was like, come on umpires, we're still on the park, have a look.
What is it with the fourth quarter and umpires just kind of putting away the whistle? This is the third game in a row, no? Because same thing happened against the Bombers, same thing happened against the Bulldogs, and noticing the same thing against the Roos. Like, there's a trend. Should we start making our tinfoil hats now, or later? Like, how much longer do we need to before we start like really getting into this conspiracy theory?
I think there's a bit of fatigue too. I mean, umpires run a lot as well. Umpires run. I mean, they don't get hit like players get hit, but they do run a lot, and they've got to make so many decisions. Like, literally thousands of decisions in a game. Umpires are making, and maybe towards the end of the time, you get tired and you get fatigued and you start making worse decisions.
Yeah,
but that's also when players are likely to get the most hurt.
Yeah,
they're also fatiguing, and when they're getting slung around, and we've seen the amount of injuries already this season through all the teams, but we're having a bit of a our injury list unfortunately is growing a bit longer and longer, and we need as many girls as we can for the rest of the season. So put that whistle back in your mouth, umpire. Give us a chance.
Yeah, so I think when we start talking about the game, let's kind of get stuck in some of the stats. Steve-O, you've brought a couple up in the past, some very interesting ones. And yeah, I'd just like to get you to gauge where you are now with where the stat lines are all heading and some of the trends that we have in the game.
Yeah, I'll look at our ability to hit the scoreboard a bit again. This week we got 4 goals against North, and to put that into context, that's not too bad an effort. North have been smacking everybody around the park for the last 5 weeks now. In the last 5 weeks, their conceded goals totals are 3-1-1-2-0. So the 4 goals that we got against North, which included 3 in the first quarter, the 4 goals we got against North was actually equal to the previous 4 weeks of North opposition teams, what they scored in 16 quarters versus
That's
our 4
unbelievable,
quarters.
isn't it?
Yeah, so that gives an idea of just how much North have been brutalising opposition lately, pretty much since they had that draw earlier in the year. But then again, our hitting the scoreboard, and we got 3 goals in the first quarter, which was great. We got a very, very late last quarter goal, but there was a very big gap again where we didn't hit the scoreboard at all. And we were getting the ball inside 50 because we actually won the inside 50s 32-31, which sounds remarkable given the margin of the game and also watching it. But we got the same, or one more inside 50 than they got. But that 2 goalless quarters again this week, which is the second and the third quarter, takes us to 6 out of 8 matches this year with at least 2 goalless quarters, again compared to just 3 out of 12 in 2023. So that's, again, despite a more positive scorecard maybe in terms of overall goals, again, big chunks of time we're not impacting the scoreboard. And against a team like North Melbourne, they're going to punish you when they get it, which is what they did. They were so efficient.
One thing that big Scotty Gowans, the head coach man himself, the big scary man, he did say a couple of times in the presser and along the week that the game has gone to a lot more defensive, that the teams are learning how to use that loose person in the back to propel the game forward a bit more, and he's noticing that scoring is kind of drying up and becoming a bit harder to get done. So I guess what he's suggesting that this is a little bit of a trend, Jen, albeit we still want to have that firepower going forward, but it seems like the whole competition has kind of become a little bit more defensive lately.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that is about. I mean, I totally understand when you're playing against teams like North, and unfortunately for us, coming up against teams like Lions and Adelaide, who are just dominant, and they've been dominant for the last couple of years, and they move that ball so quickly. Just having that extra behind the ball to intercept that or chop it down, or at least half the contest, it does make sense, but it does make it so much harder than to get it back out the other side, get it back into our offensive side of the park. And it does put a lot of pressure on some of our tall forwards like Smith and Priv to cover a whole bunch of the ground, which, I mean, they have been doing a pretty amazing job, but you do get cooked at the end of the game, and that person who is being that sweeper is often, I guess, an extra midfielder. They're having to cover a big chunk of the ground. So I wonder if that's contributing to some of the injuries as well, that we're seeing that the amount of time on ground and the amount of ground players are having to cover rather than just staying as a pure forward, pure mid, pure back is contributing. And even a weird thing, I thought we would actually use all of our interchanges this game, like North Melbourne did, and we didn't. I was like, just give them a few more rotations. But maybe with O'Sullivan off with her elbow, we just didn't have enough players to fill different roles. So yeah, we'll see what happens in this next game coming up this weekend. We might be able to drop that person back in front of the ball.
One quick one I did want to ask both of you, and just if you don't mind just touching on it, how did our midfielders look to you now with Laura Gardner out of the picture? Now, when we knew that Malloy, when Malloy was going to take some time off, Morfitt, of course, is basically out for the season, and Gardner looks to be out for a couple more weeks and might see her towards the back end of the last game or two of the season. We knew, and we did say that we expect some of the girls to step up. Now, from your perspective, Steve-O, who did you see that really kind of came through and shone through?
I think the last 3 or 4 weeks, Hurley, I've talked about her quite a bit. She's really stepped up in the midfield. Our midfield did get beaten by a better midfield, though, against North. I mean, they really did get done around the ball, but our players didn't just give it to them easy. I think it's more just when our players got their hands on it, they weren't as clean, they weren't nearly as effective. Often the North players were able to pressure them into either bad decisions, or they were able to rush them in their kicks and in their handballs. They were able to get a really quick, even a hand or a bit of pressure on an arm as a ball was trying to get flicked out. So North's pressure around the contest was really strong. The other one that I really liked, besides Hurley, who I think has stood up really well in the last few weeks, was Cooper. She wasn't on the field much. She only played about, I think, 70-ish% game time, got near 67% game time. She only had 8 touches. 4 of those 8 touches were clearances, which I really liked. And she was at 88% efficiency, which is also really, really strong. And she looks like she could really develop into Holly Cooper into a really strong clearance player for us to get that ball out to the outside runners that can do their work with the delivery into 50 and stuff. So I was really happy with the way she's looked, not just this week, but in the last few weeks. And she's got to be close to getting a Rising Star ticket. I think she's had a really good season, like in the nominations.
Yeah, no doubt. Jen, what about you? How did you see it?
Yeah, I agree with that. I thought she was really, really good in there. I was quite surprised at how strong she is. So give her a few more seasons. I think she'll get her body stronger, and she does seem to have some pretty good skills. Maybe you're right, Chris, that she's got that look in her eye, which you need when you're a midfielder. Bullis, I think, also has actually quite a big tank. She's quite a good tagger. It seems to she seemed to show it over the last couple of weeks. But as you said, they were just elite in there. Even Kennedy was wearing Jazzy Gardner like a glove, and the commentators kept talking about that you couldn't wear someone closer than Kennedy was, but she's just so good that she kept getting the ball. I can't even imagine how many touches she was. I think she was high 20s, and then her and Riddell, just their connection together in the midfield was pretty awesome. I do like Red Ribbon of Death through the midfield. I love that. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but maybe they've listened to our podcast and we've been talking about differentiation. She had a white ribbon in her hair in that game.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys realised.
Finally.
She's just the ribbon of death now, isn't she? She's just the many-coloured ribbons of death.
She's trying to trick us, but
Yep.
yeah, she's got that big boot as well. But as you said, back to the in the centre, they just were all over us. They had 53 hit-outs to our 42, 45 clearances to our 28, which just gives them that first access to the ball, first delivery inside 50, and then it showed. They had 8 marks inside 50 to our 4. So pretty much all of the stats there are close to double, especially the clearances and then the marks, and then it just shows on the scoreboard as well. And they had so many more handballs than us, so as you said, they were just able to get a handball or a kick to it when our players couldn't. They could shut our players down a lot easier in the midfield, but again, it should have been closer than the scoreboard said.
Yeah, that's it. We put up a bigger fight than what that scoreboard showed. Steve-O, there was some great moments of the game. Any big plays of the week that you want to highlight?
I got a couple. The first goal, and that first 10 minutes or so was really exciting. Like, to be going goal for goal with bloody North Melbourne, who've been smashing everyone, was pretty exciting to watch. It blew out in the end, but we really played a solid most of that first quarter, minus the last 2 minutes. And I loved our first goal in the game, where Sophia Hurley gets it, hits up Montana Ham, who goes back and kicks a very, very calm set shot. And that to me was like a look into the future almost, which is happening already now, because they both came in the same draft. Montana was pick 1, Sophia was pick 5, I think, in that draft. Both of them from out of New South Wales. Both of them chose to come to the Swans in a period where we had state-based draft pools still, which is changing now. But it was really exciting to watch that, because I thought, okay, this is like, hopefully in 5-10 years we're still seeing Sophia Hurley get it out to Ham. Hopefully Ham spends some more time in the midfield as she gets more fit with her injury recovery over time. But that to me was like a nice little snapshot of what we could have in future years. And then Ella Heads' goal-saving tackle in the third quarter. I think I've replayed that about 10 times. That was amazing. It looked like North were going to score for all money, and Ella Heads just said nah and wrapped her up. It was a beautiful tackle.
Yeah, it was like 3-on-1, and she's so much bigger. Crushed it. I
Jen,
stole
special
2
plays,
as
big
well.
ones.
Yeah, 2 for the game as well. Our almost goal to Lachlan. I thought it was one of our best end-to-end plays. Little Mads Collier intercepted in the back line, kicked it down to Mitchell. Dropped short, but we had Smith in front, who got a little ground ball get, and then waited for players to get in front of her, kicked it out to Beraldson. McCarthy did a little tricky handball over her head to Lachlan, and then she got it there, but it just hit the post. But it was one of the best plays. We just end to end. I was like, oh my God, let's get it. It would have changed our sort of mentality, I think. And then Beraldson. So again, Beraldson was in 2 of these plays. I just wanted to call out her work rate. She might not always get that ball to boot as quick as she should, but she works so hard across the ground, and she's so quick. We could rely on her a lot for speed. But she took a relieving mark again in the defensive, let's say, third of the field on the grandstand side on the wing, kicked it down the line again to McCarthy, She gave it to Heads. She went to switch it back inside to McAvoy, and somehow in that time she had worked her ass off to get up the field in front of the ball to lead back at McAvoy's kick, and then did an awesome presenting kick up to Priv in that first quarter. So she covered. She was working hard all day, so I thought that was pretty to watch.
Berylson is quickly becoming a bevy favourite, I've noticed. So across the board, the three of us are always kind of bringing her up and just noticing the work rate and effort she's getting in, and how seemingly she's like just very natural for that role over there. So yeah, Berylson, little superstar. I guess we get stuck into the Bob medal, the 3-2-1, our equivalent of the Bob Skilton. So I always try to drum up a bit of fight between the two co-hosts, as everyone is listening so far. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to succeed this week, but Steve, I'm going to pass over to you, mate, to see where you're going to table some pointy points right now.
My best on ground this week was Hurley. She was in everything. She had 23 touches, 15 tackles, 5 clearances, 9 inside 50s. Just those numbers alone, all of those numbers, she was the number one at the Swans and a few of them number one in the field. I think she's just growing every week, and I say this every week, and I think I'll probably, or hopefully say it for the next 3 weeks before the end of the season, is that we're seeing a very young player become a very strong elite level player in the space of the last month. So she was my best.
Ooh, should we cause some controversy? Should we mix it up?
Yes, please.
I've got to say, when I was thinking about these 3-2-1s, I was thinking really hard about it. I wasn't sure who I wanted to actually give it to this week, because obviously it was such a tough game and we were just fighting and clawing our way in. But looking back at the stats and some of the passages that led to our goals, again, I'm sorry, we're in agreement. Hurley was often part of that linkage, and 15 tackles. I mean, that's
15
tackles all
tackles
day round. So
that's
15
nuts.
tackles. We'll give it to Hurley. She can be number one.
Of course. All right, 3 points to Hurley, no doubt about that. I that's the one I didn't think there was going to be a question about. So really, we're all expecting Hurley, and if Jen was going to bring up another name, I feel that she would have been Jen versus the whole world. So I'm glad you kind of stuck to that, Jen. There's no worries at all. All right, 2 points. Steve-O, over to you again, mate. Your 2 points for the Bob medal.
I had Taryn, and I think we put her name in here just about every week, and we give yet another ridiculous intercept possession stat, which this week was 17 intercepts, which was the most on the field from 17 touches. Sorry, 12 intercepts from 17 touches. She was huge again, and it was getting pumped in there a lot, so she had a lot to do, and she stood up really well, so she was the second best, I thought.
Yeah. We're going to be in agreement with that one again. She just does all those little 1%ers again. She did another smother, I think, in the fourth quarter. That would have been a certain goal. Just gets a touch in every time. Undersized. 5 of her marks were contested marks. There was another, as you said, 100% time on ground, which when you're in defence and you're under the pump for most of the game, I think people forget about that as well, that you're absolutely cooked, and she does it week in, week out, and she keeps us solid down the back. So Tarrant for 2.
The beast, Tarrant, no problem at all. Tarrant with the 2 points there. Now, this is where we do manage to get a little bit of loss of synergy when we have the 1 point. So, Steve-O, your 1 point. There was a few players there with a lot of effort and some good quality play there. But who is going to get your vote?
Yeah, this was hard. I had about 3 or 4 that I wanted to give the 1 point to. I ended up going with Bullis, but the other ones that were very strong contenders, I had Cooper and also Cynthia Hamilton. So all 3 of them I kind of wanted to give a point to, but I ended up picking Bullis just because of her very, very hard effort and a lot of the grunt work that she did, especially early in the game. We're doing well.
Yes, I'm the same as Steve-O in the fact that there's a couple of players I could have given the points to. I agree with our ribbon of death. I thought Cynthia had a really great game. I love it when she goes through the midfield. She got that last goal of the game. She has such strong work ethic, work rate. I also thought maybe Lexi Hamilton could get the 1 point. Like, she had her 2 goals. I thought she was phenomenal in the ruck along with Davies, and has really stood up in Morfitt's absence. Cooper could have been there. I thought Mads Collier could have been in there. So my biggest struggle was probably between the 2 Hamiltons, but I went with Cynthia for my 1 point.
Yeah, I'd agree with that actually. And then Lexi too. Lexi's better. I think she's a better footballer. This sucks to say this, but when Ali Morfitt doesn't play, I think she plays so much better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, what do you do in that situation? But anyway, but yeah, Cynthia, I reckon that should be a good one.
She
What do you
warms
think,
into the
Chris?
game, I think maybe. All right, so Cynthia with 1 point. Looks like the bevy across the board is in sync as normal. Well, not as normal. There's been a couple along the way, but there's been some controversial moments with some bets apparently being lagged through, some dodgy stuff going on for the end of year prediction of the best player. But hey, we don't see nothing on this side. That
I'll
does
tell you
take
what's
us to
good
ladder
though too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. And I was thinking Laura Gardner's been out for a while, so that can't be bad for Sophia climbing the best on ladder, can it?
And I didn't give any points to my girl Kennedy this week. I thought about it because of her job. Her sticking like glue, but I went, actually, you know what? I feel like we got to spread the love a little bit, but we can still give Hurley 3 just for one more week.
Yeah. I mean, Kennedy had a great game as well, but yeah, I can appreciate. So Hurley for the 3, 2 for Tarrant, and Cynthia Hamilton with the 1. Now the ladder implication does drop us down another 2 spots in the ladder down to 14th, with a win-loss of 2 and 6 at 69%. Down from 80, so quite a big dropping, unfortunately, to take us down on the percentage. We do have a couple of games ahead of us in the Suns and Eagles in round 9 and 11. That should, hopefully, we've got some good cracks off with the Lions in the middle. And I'm not sure who wrote this, but the heavily imbalanced ladder.
Oh, I read that. Yeah.
Yeah, please. Can you get into that?
Yeah.
Because it's a really interesting point, and it does show the situation that the AFLW teams are in.
Yeah, and this is not great. Like, it really isn't. When the top 3 on the ladder in combination has more points than the entire bottom half of the ladder, so the bottom 9. So the top 3 currently have 86 points, the bottom 9 has 82 points, and even if you go up to the next one, so the bottom 10, that only puts it up another 16 points, so it's not even much difference between the top 3 and the entire bottom 10, so literally every team that's outside the 8. And that shows the imbalance we've got this year between the elite 3 teams that are smashing everyone, and then literally everybody else. And luckily, we only play one more of these teams, so we've got 2 more games we should be a good shot at. But in terms of the competition as a whole, it's really not good to have that much of a gap between the top and the bottom. And they've brought in new teams, and a lot of the top teams have continually, like the Crows and the Lions and stuff, they keep leaking players, but they're still at the very, very top of the ladder. So I don't know, there needs to be a bit of thought about exactly what this means for the future of the competition in the next couple of years, because we can't keep having a situation where 2 or 3 teams flog everyone. It becomes the Premier League, the British Premier League, and then everyone else is just fighting for the scraps. It's not something you want to see as a football fan, and maybe we were less aware of it last year because we were fighting for that finals spot. We didn't really think about it, but yeah, when the bottom 9 and the top 3 are around about the same, it's a bit of a worry.
That's an interesting stat.
Yeah, really good start. So yeah, to put in perspective, Kangaroos, Hawthorn. Who saw Hawthorn going up to the top 3? I did not see that coming. But Hawthorn, Kangaroos, and the Lions all sitting on 7 wins, and the Kangaroos with the 1 draw, but Hawthorn and Brisbane with the 1 loss. Pretty competitive considering where the season is up to. But then you look at where the Kangaroos are up to, 313%. That is just outrageous. That is like seniors playing in the juniors kind of competition. That's just unnecessary numbers. So big probably adjustments to be made by the AFLW on just how they look to proceed going forward. It's a bit tricky, of course, just the way that the games and the teams and the draft is all structured, how the trades happen. Of course, these girls aren't professionals, so they're not going to travel. If you're living in WA, you're not going to go all the way to Brisbane to get more game time or something. Or if you are, it's going to be quite a really significant effect to your life. So it's going to be interesting how we apply from here going forward. Now, next game against the Suns.
I wonder about the fixture, just before we go on with that, because we've talked about the imbalanced fixture a lot as well, and I wonder to what extent the fixture impacts this, because we don't know because we've never seen it, but if there was a 17 match fixture, maybe this would even itself out a bit because everybody would play everyone. So without going into a lot of detail about who the top teams have played and who the bottom teams have played, this is a bit of a loose stat for me to throw out. But I think it could easily also be connected to just how lopsided the fixturing has been.
Yep, no, fair, very, very fair call. Good to point that out. Okay, next game ahead, the Suns at Henson Park. Jen, the battle, what was it? The battle for the beating heart, Henson Park.
That's right. So we still have the battle for the beating heart, and it's always good to have a New South Wales versus Queensland situation going on just to keep that rivalry strong across all the codes. So very hopeful this weekend we can get a win. I mean, before this North Melbourne game, we've had so many close losses. It's only been small margins that we've been losing by. What did we say? It was 7 and 3 and 3. I just want to see the girls get reward for their effort because they've been working so hard for these last couple of weeks, and unfortunately with this injury list growing, I hope we can take this one home. So obviously here we've got the Suns are sitting last at the moment with no wins and 1 draw versus GWS. Their recent losses by 16 to Brisbane Lions, 9 to Essendon, 13 to Hawthorn, 3 to Collingwood. So that last game they really rallied and a close finish. But we do have some dangerous players still in there that we've got to keep an eye on. Everyone knows about Charlie Rowbottom. She's averaging about 29 disposals per game. Tara Bohanna as well, their forward, their captain. I believe she's their captain. She's really tall and she clunks a few goals from all over the place. We know that from last year's elimination final. So we've got to keep an eye on her as well.
There's been a couple of injuries along the way, Steve-O. We know about Malloy, we know about Morfitt, we know about Gardner. Julie O'Sullivan also having to take some time off.
Yeah, do we know exactly how long she's out for? Because she got hurt in the North Melbourne game and it didn't look great, but I haven't seen anything from the club this week. I mean, it's still maybe a bit early in the week, but they won't name their teams until a couple more days, but haven't seen how long she's out for. Besides her, it's the big three, that we've now been missing and really missed the last few weeks especially. But
yeah, I think Chris sent through that little list of... oh no, she's not on that list. We've got Laura Gardner's injury update that she could maybe be a chance for that last round. And then obviously with Montema Ham, they were saying she pulled up pretty well after the game over the weekend, which I'm happy about because there was a moment in that game she looked really proppy after a tackle, after a contested ball on the wing. I was like, oh no, she's just done her foot again. She looked like she was limping. So that is good news that they think that she should be fine this week. She's just got to go through training, and if she pulls up sore, they're not going to play her. But if she pulls up okay, she will play. So that's good news for us. But yeah, apart from what I saw on the sidelines, it looked like they kept pointing to the bicep coming across the elbow. So I'm hoping it wasn't a proper bicep situation, bicep tear, but she was getting ragdolled for a little while there, O'Sullivan. Poor thing, she just got smacked on her head in 1 second, and then 2 minutes later Moore threw her off, and then another second later I think it was Moore again, who's just so strong. That was done in the contest with her, so fingers crossed for her elbow.
Yep. She is a pretty tough veteran as well. Good Irish girl with a really good pedigree and good experience there in Gaelic football. Was it Gaelic football or was it hurling? No, it was Gaelic football, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, I predict her to be as tough as nails. So hopefully we see her out there quickly in Sullivan. Okay, prediction times. Jen, what do you reckon? You got to go bold or bold or bold?
Oh, I just saw what your one was, so I'm not going as bold as yours. But I'm still going to say, because I really want us to win this game, I still think we're going to win against the Eagles. So if we can sniff a good win and jump back up into 12th place, and hopefully maybe Carlton loses, I can't believe I've said that, by a small margin, then we'll jump back up to 12th just to make us look better. So Swans by 26.
26. I don't think we'll win by that much. I reckon we're going to win. I got two predictions actually. I'm going to say we're going to win by 10 points. And my other prediction is that after the game, Charlie Rowbottom is going to go and have a whole bunch of beers with her brother at one of those craft brewery places in Marrickville, just down the road from Henson Park. There's a bunch of them. And she's going to pledge her allegiance to the Swans at the end of her next Gold Coast contract. So that's my second prediction.
Wow, that is pretty. That is bold, and I like it. Not the beers with her brother in Marrickville. I think that's just a given. That's just going to happen. It's factual. The sun comes up tomorrow, and Charlie Rowbottom is going to be smashing beers in Marrickville. But yeah, her pulling allegiance over the Swans, we'd love it. She is an absolute star player. I'm going to go with Swans by 36. I just feel 6-6-36. Let's go 6 goals up. That's where my head's at. That's all. There's no other thing other than that.
The devil's predictor right here, 666. Maybe we should all get to the breweries afterwards as well. Should we all get around each one? We'll take a brewery each, and then if we see Charlie Rowbottom, we just keep buying rounds and butter her up and just get her to put the pen to paper and then be like, oh, sorry, it's done. She's done it.
So should we get in contact with the Swans?
Yeah, surely they've got to have an entire team on this by now. If they don't, then they're not doing their jobs. It's a small shift for her too. Say that really quickly. Small shift for her. She's playing in red and yellow. She just changes the yellow for white, and she's done. She's happy.
Look good.
Yep. And we could go.
She'll look
my
good in red
goodness!
and
Could
white.
you imagine her in that midfield? Oh, it'd be so nice. It'd be so tight.
Her and Montana Ham just bashing bodies around would be wonderful.
Oh, seriously. Just taking turns, smashing people, and then you got Hurley just tackling anyone that comes near her. Gardner just extracting, and then oh my god, it would be so sweet. Anyway, we can only dream. All right, one last thing, Jen. It was your birthday a couple of weeks ago, around the GWS game. That's about right.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was that one because I came back from the south coast, drove back up so I could watch the game at the Beating Heart, Henson Park, and the Swannies gave me a great birthday win. So, very happy.
Well, the Swans love you very much, as Steve-O and I do, and we wanted to make sure we could look after you a little bit more. So, the Swans have been nice enough to actually provide your absolute favourite player to the podcast to interview in Tanya Kennedy this week. So that's happening.
I'm unavailable.
So actually...
what a birthday present.
Steve-O and I actually thought about not telling you and just bringing her onto the podcast.
Yeah.
But we just... And we were like, oh, do we want to? Do we want to just not say anything? And I felt we felt that maybe you would just either just melt, not talk, freeze. But mostly, we know you, and you just want to be well prepared and just and enjoy it. So so we're teaming that up with the Swans now. So we'll have her on the podcast, and we're going to ask her all manner of things, and then hopefully we understand everything she says on the way back.
Excellent. I can't wait. I'm going to have to do some research, get some excellent questions ready to go. That is one of the best birthday presents I've had this year.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, that does bring us to the end of the episode. If you like what we've done, thank you very much, firstly. But secondly, if you can just go out there in the ether where all the social medias are, like us, follow us, or send us a message and say hello. If you see us at Henson Park, the Beating Heart of Sydney, then also come and say hello. It's always great to meet some other Swans fans. But hey, Gold Coast this week at Henson Park. Get your tickets, see you there. But until then, up the bloods. And can you, Swanee?